Hello, everyone. I am Adam Bradford, General Manager for D&D Beyond. Thank you for joining me for this week's development update and community Q&A session. Lots and lots of questions always. Today will be no different. I'm sure we've got a couple of pretty exciting announcements this morning that I'm pretty pumped to get into. Let's dive in. Latest updates on what's going on with development. We've got something going on with Critical Role, especially surrounding the upcoming Gen Con that I am looking forward to traveling to. We're going to actually take a road trip on this one. So I'm not even going to fly to this convention. It's close enough that we can drive. So we're going to take a little bit of a road trip. It's going to be fun. If you happen to be going to Gen Con, by all means, stop by our area in the Adventures League section where everybody's playing with Baldman Games there. We're going to have a character creation station there. Stop by and say hello to the team. And then we will be at the Critical Role live show event. And we'll get into what's happening around that in just a little while. We've also got a new team member joining D&D Beyond that we're going to talk about today. So again, I'm going to have to pump the brakes for a second. I'm pretty excited about that one too, but I won't blurt it out right now. We'll follow the agenda. Data update top races. So we've been looking lately at a data set of individuals who have bought all of the player options on D&D Beyond. So that means that the data set, hopefully, there's going to be some skewing always, but it at least shows that those individuals have all options available to them. And then we're looking at what's being chosen. And it's given us a really interesting glimpse into some of the options out there, what is being chosen, what the top distribution for that is. So we're going to look at races today, and there are some surprises there upcoming. And then, of course, Ask Me Anything. So, latest updates. We did complete a change within the last, I believe, week, maybe week and a half here. We completed a change since the last dev update, where now when you are turning on campaign content sharing, which is one of the most compelling features on D&D Beyond, this is intended to simulate the experience around the table. When I was younger, first starting to play, I did not have gray in the beard. I guess I didn't have the beard either, but I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I remember that there was always one person that was buying all the books for us, and that person actually wasn't me because I didn't have the money to do it back then. But I talked to other people, this one other person, into buying all the books. And so essentially all of that was passed around the table. So campaign content sharing is supposed to simulate that experience. And so very excited that we're able to offer that. But one of the things that has been irritating kind of from the beginning is if you're a dungeon master that wants to use D&D Beyond to create a lot of non-player characters that you want to associate with a campaign, or if you're playing a campaign where perhaps the players for whatever reason are playing multiple characters, this gets you more and more hitting the limit on what you can do with that, because it was set at within each campaign you could have up to 12 characters doing this, and we have made a change where now you can have up to 12 players regardless of the number of characters. So this was a big change, and we saw a lot of very positive feedback about that, and we're glad that we were able to take that step at this point. And we are next starting to look a little bit at the campaign page itself and what we can do there. And then naturally this also goes into content management, being able to blacklist and whitelist different sources where those pesky spoiler driven players can't go ahead of you in the adventure that you're running. So all of that's coming together. Character service is still work in progress. We actually are hitting a pretty big bump in the road here. So the growth of DDB, as I've explained in the past, has been a little bit unexpected, which is a great problem to have. But as we get more and more millions and millions of characters coming in, the database and the architecture that we're currently on, we've got to make sure that that is actually scalable and that it's going to not just bring down the entire site. So we do have our characters team right now. We haven't been able to touch the builder or the character sheet in terribly significant ways for the last several months, but it's because we are really dealing with a pretty big issue here that we are committed to making sure that there's no interruption, that you guys as our players out there, that you're not going to see any of the negative effects of this. But it is definitely taking our focus and attention to make sure that we are set up properly for the future. And again, just keep the characters coming. Just keep making it harder and harder on us to do this, because we love seeing everything that is happening and all the activity that's happening out there. Encounter Builder Alpha refinement. We are getting closer to the final stages of what we would think is Alpha, moving on to beta for the public before too much longer. And then mobile beta character sheet is in progress. Hope to have more on that before too much longer. Encounter Builder weekly update. We are so close on Homebrew Monsters. This one's been a little bit more complex than we would have liked it to be, because of some of the new ways that we're trying to set up the platform for future scalability. But Homebrew is it's essentially in QA right now. If you're involved in any kind of development environment right there, it's in the quality pass right now. So we are hopeful that that is going to be, I hope before the next time I talk to you, I will be able to say definitively that Homebrew is in the Encounter Builder. We've got a couple of other things that we're trying to wrap up and add into the alpha. And then after that, we're getting ready for beta, where we're going to turn this on for the entire public, and we're going to start moving on to encounter tracking at that point in time. So let's talk about some Critical Role news. This is actually a thing. So a long time ago in a galaxy, a long time ago, Mr. Sam Riegel got we kind of sent him the wrong information for one of the bits that he was supposed to do one of those weeks. And I don't know how it happened, but a flyer for our ability to elect a president of our party planning committee here at D&D Beyond. So the person that's going to plan our parties for the year, it somehow ended up in the material that we were sending across for Critical Role for that week. And Sam did not read the fine print. And here we find ourselves. And so to make sure that we did not hurt Sam's feelings, we have continued to play along with this, even though it has become its own beast, we'll say. So at this point in time, we are going to be opening up the voting for, let me see here. We're going to be opening up the voting for the president of the party planning committee for D&D Beyond. And you can get there by going to dndbeyond.com/critical-role-election. And you can actually vote. Now, voting here on D&D Beyond, you are going to be able to receive some downloadable wallpapers. You are going to be able to show your support on your character sheet with some new portrait frames. So that also is actually a thing here. And then there are some character sheet backdrops that you would be able to unlock as well. So you can vote. And I'm not going to actually vote here because, the truth is I don't know which one of these gentlemen is going to be most responsible with our party budget, but we'll see what happens. So you guys vote, and ultimately go to this page, vote. One other thing that I will call out. So our developers one in particular that I will give a shout out to, Justin Ryder, is very fond of Easter eggs, as any good gamer should be. And there is some kind of Easter egg on this page right here that is actually pretty funny. I chuckled when I saw it. And so if any of you can figure out what that is, and can't give really any hints at this point, we'll see how people do without it. But there is an Easter egg. Oh, you guys asking for the link? Let's see. Yeah, there's a link. I did it. So basically, if you can figure out this Easter egg and you can be the first person that messages me on some platform that I receive messages on, best one here is probably Twitter, showing some kind of proof that you found the Easter egg. And all you have to do is screenshot the result of that Easter egg. Don't tell people how to do it, but screenshot the result of that Easter egg and message me, and I will go by timestamps. And don't worry if if it's super close or something like that. We'll just do this for everybody. But I'll give out a legendary bundle for anybody that can figure out what their Easter egg is. So if you figure it out, message me with the proof that you did so, and we will get you a legendary bundle. So let that hunt begin as well. So this is voting for the president of the party planning committee for D&D Beyond. So let the voting begin. All right. So moving on, we have some other very exciting news that I am really happy to share. So joining the D&D Beyond team is Dan Telfer, and he is going to be joining the team as our dungeon humorist, or the other title that we've been tossing around is comedy archmage. So our dungeon humorist or comedy archmage, Dan is a really incredible individual who's been running a podcast called Nerd Poker for a long time. You see his bio right here on the screen. He has won Emmys. He has been the senior editor at Mad Magazine for I think a couple of years at this point in time. And the unfortunate news, and this was really sad to hear, but the unfortunate news is Mad is closing its doors. And so when I saw that, we just had to go out and try our best to scoop up Dan, because he's going to be a huge boon for the team. And so he's going to come in and start doing some really interesting content for us on D&D Beyond. We're going to share more about what that's going to be in the coming weeks, but we are terribly happy to have him joining the team starting next week. So you guys be sure to let him know on social media and everywhere else how welcome he is into the D&D Beyond community. We're really excited about him joining the team. And in honor of Dan's arrival, we will give out a legendary bundle today. Legendary bundle today. And in order for you to win this legendary bundle, I need you to type something in chat. It doesn't matter what that something is. We just need to know that you are a human and not a robot. So we're going to make sure that, if you're a robot, you might be able to get through this, like if you're an advanced enough artificial intelligence. But either way, type something in chat. I think I've delayed long enough. And so at this point, we are going to give it away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Aronzel, AR something. Aronzel, Aronzel, congratulations. You have won a legendary bundle. We're going to make sure that we get that typed out somewhere to the person that's going to be doing that award. So let's see. Yeah, Aaron Zell. So ARONZELL. Congratulations, Aaron Zell. You have won a legendary bundle, and we'll get that awarded to you ASAP. All right, so let's look at some data. It wouldn't be a dev update without slide issue. So here we go. Top races is actually what we're looking at today. We looked at multi-classing last time. So top races and all player options unlocked, as I said before. So this is Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This is Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It's anywhere that races are included or sub races are included. Now, this is by race itself, and this is actually pretty interesting to look at because in the typical distribution, when we allow all free options, free accounts, everything else to be in here, you're going to see a definite different distribution here. Okay. And so you're going to see, for instance, Elf is much more popular than you're seeing in this spread when we allow all of the free accounts to be in there. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see my pointer there, but Elf is not very high in the distribution in this data set where people have all player options unlocked. You do see, though, that we at the beginning we have human, half elf, dwarf. Those are all from the player's handbook. But you've got the Aasimar, get into tiefling, that's in the player's handbook. Dragonborn, my half orcs are there a little bit. But then you start getting into Tabaxi, very, very popular. You get into Goliath, changelings, fearbolgs, goblins. So all of these options are not available in the player's handbook. They are new options that were added later into the game. And among those who have bought all of those options and have them at their fingertips, you are seeing that essentially, if you got them, you play them. All right. So if you have those races available, people by and large are playing those races even over some of the more typical races that we see in the larger data set. So, several things could be potentially inferred from this, but I think that ultimately people are pretty happy. I think that a pretty safe assumption here, people are pretty happy with these new racial options that are being provided in these later source books because you definitely see a pretty high distribution here. I like how the Loxodon are kind of coming in there a little bit and getting some representation. I love the elephant folk. So yeah, all of that's coming together. If you got any questions on that, might not be able to answer it today because I don't have that raw data in front of me, but definitely let us know if you have any questions. And also, if you have other suggestions about different ways that we can look at this data, we really are. We're just trying to. This is not a focus for us right now. We're trying to focus on development, trying to focus on building out the platform, and we're collecting and gathering all this data, and we are really just starting to scratch the surface on what is available to us, and what that could potentially mean for the game itself. All right, upcoming encounter tracker, phase 1 of that, track hit points, statuses, initiative order. I have seen mocks starting to come together, rough mocks starting to come together for this. So this is going to be a reality before too much longer. The general feature system that we've discussed several times, we understand this stays on the list here because we understand that as more and more content is added to the game, more and more of a need arises for different elements to be represented that are not necessarily part of the core framework of the game. And so this feature system is going to be a response to that as we're able to get to it. Adventures League integration. And then we do have Gen Con, as I mentioned earlier. So definitely stop by and see us at Gen Con. If you see any of us walking around, say hello. We're really looking forward to the convention. It's such a huge mass of people that are there for this, kind of united purpose of gaming. It is great to get to go to these, and Gen Con is one of the best. We are going to see that the voting for the Critical Role election is going to close at the live show for Critical Role at Gen Con. So they actually will announce the results of who won president of D&D Beyond's Party Planning Committee at the live show. I think maybe during the break. I might be wrong on that. It might be after the show, but either way, they're going to announce the winner, and then we are going to see what happens with the first party that is thrown with one of these potential candidates in that role. So we'll see how it goes. Now it is time to ask the questions. So let's see what we got. So this is going to come up on the magic thing. If you type question and then your question, it will pull in to this really slick thing that I am scrolling through now here to see where the first question came in. All right, let's see what we got. MC Evans 66. Would it be possible to add print and or download buttons to articles like Encounter of the Week, so we don't need to copy and paste into a document to edit and keep? That is something that we have looked into a little bit. It's not something that is a priority for us at this point, but it is something that we've seen a few of you mention, and we've added it to a list. If we see more demand, then our stance on that and prioritization on that would certainly change. Gottable, what are your plans for PAX South? Currently, my plan is to attend, but I'm not exactly sure what that is going to mean for the team at large. So we haven't planned that far ahead yet. We've kind of just planned through the end of the year. We'll reveal more about a convention schedule and our plans for the different conventions as we get closer to 2020. Archmage Valexion. Any plans for being able to determine whose homebrew appears in a campaign? Yes, we do have plans for this. Not exactly sure when we're going to be able to get around to it, but we have heard this one come up as well, and we agree that it would be best to be able to see who is contributing that homebrew with content sharing turned on in the campaign. So it is on the list. No ETA at this point in time. Let's see. Kit Kat Cosplay. I love the backdrops and portrait frames. Is there plan to share those with my players or allow players to just buy the backdrops with purchasing, maybe without purchasing the full Ghost of Saltmarsh or Acquisitions Incorporated? And yes, I'm trying to figure out what I want to say at this point in time. I will say yes, there is a plan for you to be able to acquire for anyone to be able to acquire the different portrait frames, backdrops, and theme colors in alternate ways in the future. But we're not quite ready to talk about how that will work. Bam, whap, pow. Are there short-term plans to include homebrew monsters to the list addable to the encounter builder? So yes, as the update I shared earlier said, we are very close to that happening, and we've got our QA eyes on it right now, and I expect it is not going to be much longer. We're going to see that being pushed into the alpha. Cosplay Right. What's going to happen to the TOD modules on DDB when the United volume comes out this fall? So knew I would get this question, and the honest truth about this is I don't know yet exactly what's going to happen. So we're working with Wizards of the Coast to try to determine what the path here is going to be, and ultimately whatever they determine that path is going to how that's going to take shape, that is what we're going to have to follow suit with. So as soon as we're able to confirm that with Wizards of the Coast, that is something that we will share with you guys as soon as we have all of that information available. What I can say, pausing for just a second there, what I can say is it is going to be available on D&D Beyond in some shape, form, or fashion. I just don't know how that is going to take shape yet, but it will be, the content itself will be available on D&D Beyond. Soju Drama Queen, when will the Heroes of the Veil be featured on Idle Champions? We'll see. We'll see. Agnes.Davidson, does the player races change radically for people who don't buy all the options? Actually, it does change a good bit. Things like in previous dev updates have dove into that. So we're working on some ways to maybe surface the data a little bit easier from those dev updates. But I can tell you that, for instance, elves are much more popular than in the distribution that we saw here with those that have all those options unlocked. So yeah, it does change. In my opinion, radically is a fairly subjective term, but I think that it is a significant change with those free accounts being thrown into the data set. Starin19, any plan to add tools to make D&D Beyond more usable for online play? Have to clarify exactly what you mean by online play, but what I can say is that with the DDB Avri bot, you can play online using Discord already pretty effectively there. We're working to make that to tie that into your D&D Beyond account where all of your purchases can be unlocked there. So that's a priority for us. So playing through Discord online, that's something that you're able to do. And then yes, in the future, we do intend to create a virtual game space for you to be able to play online remotely with friends. No other real details about that at the moment because it's just a little too far away, but it is something that is planned and something that we are actively pursuing. Uncle Jack, any news on Ranger Revise? You would have to ask Mr. Mike Merles or Jeremy Crawford that question because we are going to 100% follow their lead on whatever, if anything, is going to happen with the Ranger in the future. Death Angel's Shadow took the content management survey. One question I had was, will there be a mechanism to warn the player and notify the DM of a campaign that player is in that they accessed material they had restricted from players? Whoa, that was a mouthful. Give me just a second here. Will there be a mechanism to warn the player and notify the DM of a campaign that player is in? They access material they had restricted from players. I think that are you talking about if the player is in multiple campaigns? Perhaps if that's the case, we don't know yet. We'll have to look into that use case and see if that is something that should be added into the mix. I can tell you in the first pass, no notifications of that sort are planned as far as I know. But as we get a little deeper into it, we'll have a little more clarity there. If I'm not getting that question right, feel free to try to clarify and re-ask, and hopefully we'll get to it. Frank, the step _ the step. Is the spell restriction for Adventures League going to come at the same time as the AL integration planned for the future? Is this something that will come much further in the line? I'm assuming you're talking about the Player's Handbook +1 rule with spells there, and the idea would be that we would want that. I don't know if it will come like exactly as the first pass, i.e. when the first part of that's deployed, but it would be something that we would look at as the first part of that effort. And so because we understand where we are really trying to get to with that is we're trying to get to a point where you have the ability to look at a character and see an Adventures League badge essentially that says this character is AL legal, and that's something that you could just show a DM very quickly if you've got your character on your phone or whatever. And if that badge appears, that can give that dungeon master confidence that the rules are being followed for AL play. Dilligaffern, so I believe I already answered this question. We just don't know yet. I can tell you that my preference is what you're mentioning there, but I don't know what's going to happen yet. Ladred, will we have the update for the Aniver? Wow. I need to survey these a little bit better before I click on them. I don't know yet. Let's see. Okay, this one looks like it is not Tyranny of Dragons related. And please know that I'm not dodging the question. If I had the info, I think you guys know at this point that I would gladly share that. But we just don't know yet. Meffer, any plans to add the ability to invite accounts to a campaign so players can create new characters without having to use a link each time? I think that is a wonderful idea. We have a lot of plans surrounding that. We're not incredibly happy. Like, we think that the link is a good starting point, but we know that there are better ways to do that, and we want to incorporate those over time. Don't know what that over time means yet. Devere P, how does buying the Essentials kit affect the Legendary pack price when the Adventure will be available to be purchased on the site? That's a good question. So ultimately, the policy that we have enacted from day one with any type of previously purchased content credit, and I want to be clear, and by being clear here, this is not remotely an attempt to be snarky in any way with what I'm about to say, but we live in a digital world here, and the way that digital purchases typically happen, things like previously purchased content credit just don't exist for the vast majority of digital purchases that you make. We did not like this as a company, and we pushed back against this. This was something that we had to really push to make sure Wizards of the Coast was on board with, and everything else. And so the only way that we can make this work effectively and be able to even tie off what we need to tie off in our books each month and everything else is that previously purchased content credit always gives you credit for everything that you have paid into that bundle. So if you do buy all of the books, like if you've bought every single book and you've bought all these books at 25% off, first of all, that's a great deal. Like, congratulations, you got all those things at 25% off. But whatever that dollar amount is that you actually paid, that is what you're going to carry into any purchase of the bundle, the relevant bundle that you're talking about. So with the Essentials kit, this is going to be the same situation. You're getting that unlocked for free. You're not paying any additional money to D&D Beyond. And so therefore, whatever money you have paid into that bundle, as always, is going to be what kind of previously purchased content credit you receive for that bundle. So hopefully that makes it clear. It's the only way that we can, again, make this make sense. And it's the only way that we can continue to offer that really, really major benefit that we're doing. Because if we went with other methods, it is going to be it's not going to be feasible for us to be able to demonstrate what's going on effectively enough, and our stakeholders, Wizards of the Coast, and our board of directors are not going to be happy with how that works. So essentially, like I said, you're never ever going to lose credit for the money that you've paid. You're always ever going to get every bit of money that you've paid into that. You will get credit for that money. So hopefully that clarifies that enough. Vaxum, crossword puzzles or Sudoku puzzles. I really abhor puzzles of these sorts of any kind because I just do not have the time to go into those. I would so much rather be reading a book, writing something, designing something, thinking through who is more powerful in the Marvel Universe. There are 10 million things that I would rather do than to do either one of those things. So that is not a knock on anyone who likes crossword puzzles or Sudoku puzzles, but they are not my jam. Thanks for the question, though. Cosplay right. What's your favorite monster name you've seen in the homebrew monsters? I don't know. I don't know the favorite name. I don't know if I know enough of the names that we've seen. I do look at the homebrew, but let's see. I don't know. What do we got here? We've got homebrew monsters somewhere. Let's see. Creations. Browse monsters. 1983, 2, Creature from Nowhere. Toad Moss Sloth. 4D Man. I mean, there are some good candidates just in the first page. So, yeah, I don't know what my favorite name would actually be here. Why don't you guys share some of your favorites in chat if you have them? Take this opportunity to plug your own monsters if you think you have a clever name. And I may get back to you on that one. I'll go pick a favorite, and then we'll see what that favorite is next week. Ruther X, has there been discussion to include Sage advice data on DDB? As footnotes in the official text, similar with some Twitter-based rules clarification. So we actually, our content management team is in the process right now of adding the Sage advice compendium to D&D Beyond, and we are exploring ways, hopefully, that you will be able to, the idea, and I'm not exactly sure how the implementation is going to shake out here, but the idea would be that if you get to a section in the compendium content that is influenced or impacted in some way by Sage advice, that you would be have some kind of notification of that. You'd be able to hover, click, whatever, and see that clarification right in line with the text. So yes, this is a good question. It is something that we are actually working on with our content management team right now. So we'll have more info on that as it continues to come together. Weetabix, are there plans for buying or somehow getting more? Yeah, so absolutely, there is a plan. We're just not exactly able to talk about it yet because it would be an incomplete conversation. So we just can't have the conversation yet, but there are plans for that. And this is not like in the Cylons plan way. Like there's an actual plan here, and we will share more about that when we get there. Frank _ the step. What are your feelings about the newest news on Phase 4 of the MCU? My feelings are a shaken sternum from being in Hall H when that news dropped. I don't know if I've ever heard a place be that loud in just per capita loud. I literally think my skeleton was shaking. But yeah, I'll say that I'm very excited and very happy about it. Me Schnitzel 42. Can there be an option when managing equipment to buy or sell? Certainly on the list, something that we want to get to. Nerd Poker Pod. He almost got me to say it. I believe that is our dungeon humorist already trying to be funny. I'm not sure if he succeeded or failed in his first attempt, but no, I'm not endorsing either of the candidates here. That would be that would be unethical for me to do so. Professor Nightshade, error code, blah, 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 authentic, blah, 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 keeps happening during our games, especially when the games go past 1 a.m. Eastern time. Interesting. Is this a side effect of the new change to campaign player counts? I don't actually know. If you have not sent this to support, or support's the best place, but the forums or somewhere else, somebody definitely can dig into this and try to help. And the information you're given here is interesting. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but it shouldn't have to do with those campaign character counts. But yeah, if you can share more info with our support team, they will be happy to help. Meffer, are there plans in a campaign to be able to disable specific classes or archetypes? That is something that we can see content management that we're currently working on do, at least eventually. We're not sure what's going to happen in the first pass of that. The priority is to make sure that people can't read ahead in the adventures, but we'll see where we go from there. How do you play Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica Goblin as a race? I think that by expanding the acronym, I probably answered your question there. You unlock Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and that race will be available to you. So technically, I think that they are mechanically the same. There's just different lore around them. Could be wrong there. So might need to be combined actually with the other goblin if we want to look at that data from a mechanical perspective, but we weren't necessarily looking at it that way because the lore behind it definitely can impact player decision with the race. Aaron Lore, has anyone started working on dark mode yet? No, not yet. Darren Kotska, when will I be able to create an encounter for a given campaign that I'm running so that it auto populates the encounter with my party? Thanks. Yeah, so that's definitely going to get in. Not exactly sure. I'm trying to remember what the short list is before we go to public beta. I'm not sure if that is on it or not, but it's definitely something that's very high up on that list. Grand Pyromania favorite candy. That's actually a fairly tough one for me. Like a lot of, I am not actually a chocolate person. I'm much more of a sweet and sour kind of person. So I would definitely say that the leading candidate is Lemon Heads, followed pretty closely by Smarties. I like the classics. All right, yet to be 12. How much longer will it take? You're probably not going to get the answer you're looking for. How much longer will it take to deal with the problem of D&D Beyond's growth, and what kind of things will you have to do to solve it? Not exactly sure how much longer. We are in the home stretch. I had our development manager sitting here in the office with me just yesterday telling me that we're in the home stretch. And the things that we're having to do is move off the current type of database that we're on and move to a different kind, because we're essentially capped in the tier that we can move up to. So in other words, we have one more upgrade that we can go to, and then that's the highest that we can go to, and the growth rate is going to eclipse that. We're not like necessarily in 911 territory, but a few months, and so we've definitely got to do something about it, and we're gonna. It's not going to take us a few months to do the things that we need to do, but yeah, we've got to move to a different type of database. Let's see, Uncle Jack. Any chance of bringing back Thrykeen? I hope that they do, but that is definitely a question for Wizards of the Coast. I would love to see some Dark Sun action, and that would be a pretty appropriate time for that to happen. Kale Bludrick. How has the experience been with the Encounter Builder Alpha and user feedback? Do you plan to use a similar alpha system for future products or projects? It has been phenomenal. It has been a very successful experiment for us. And yes, we definitely intend to use it in the future for other types of major features like this. Bestow. What sort of under the radar upcoming DDB feature are you personally excited about? I don't know if any of the things are under the radar because I talk to you guys almost on a weekly basis, and I tell you a lot of things that we're working on. I think that some the things that I haven't talked about much, there is a reason that I can't talk about them much. So there are things that we don't even talk about much as a team right now because it's just past that horizon. But my job is continually looking above the storm clouds into the blue sky and always looking ahead and having to be a futurist. So I'm living in things that could be happening 2 to 3 to 5 years from now. And all of the things in that bucket are incredibly exciting to me. But in the meantime, the thing that you guys probably know about the most, the monster builder, is the thing that I am most excited about of the things that we can talk about. Prof Knight, what was your Twitter address again? I found the Easter egg. Wow. At Bad Eye Adam. At Bad Eye Adam. I am curious to see if that actually is the case. And if so, well done. Lepidoptera lady. Lepidoptera lady. Sorry. What are the top sub races in each race that has them? That's something that we can certainly look at going forward. We've looked at that a few other times. Padraig the Bard. Oh, this is our team, one of our product managers, Pat. So Pat is asking, how come every time we go to a management lunch, we end up at Baumhauer's? Because you guys don't give me any other suggestions. And if it's up to me, I know where I'm going. Bay Cussadin, will we ever get more Moonicorn facts? We will see what happens. It really depends on what that wild man Todd Kenrick does in the future. Shoto Scotch, any thoughts about adding a way to put a full picture in a character's page that would show up in the PDF printout? So I have thoughts about that, and I have thoughts that are going to be even cooler than that about character visualization with 3D models and all these things that we're working towards getting. So yes, at some point you will have full body shots of your characters and be able to do what you're describing there. Oceans, any plans for larger sharing? I play in a group with about 100 regular members playing in one shots twice a week, and everyone seems interested in D&D Beyond accounts. Yeah, we have to cut this off somewhere. We feel like we've been incredibly generous with allowing you to buy content one time and share that with up to 36 people. So yeah, it's not going to be 100 people. So that might be kind of really give them an inch, take a mile situation. So no, we can't do that. But with 100 people, it sounds like 3 master tier subscriptions and 3 copies of whatever content you need would be able to cover almost 100 people there. I don't know if I'm doing math right. No, a little over 100 people, right? And so it sounds like that is a super good deal to me. Supercron 3, is the Easter egg on the what? I don't know. Archmage Valexion, with that, would it be possible to then control whose homebrew you see, like setting it to DM only? That is something that we would want to get into once we did that. So that's a follow-up to an earlier question. But yes, we would want to do that. Binet UK, which settings have you played, and which do you have the fondest memories of? I really like this. So settings you played and which do you have the fondest memories of? Interesting. So you're also saying played. So lot of love for Dragonlance. It was the first setting that I played. So definitely like Dragonlance. I've played in many, if not all of them in some way. I like Spelljammer. I definitely like Dark Sun. Really, really hard to pick a favorite, but I do have to admit that I am a big fan of the storytelling opportunities in the Eberron campaign setting. I think that Keith and everyone else that was involved in its inception did an incredibly good job. I like the concept of wand slingers, all of that. So I guess if I had to pick one, I'm going to say Eberron, and I probably have the fondest memories from that too, because it's probably what I played the most of at a very impactful time in my D&D journey. Kit Kat cosplay. I did the dumb I did the dumb and published a homebrew with typos. Is there a plan to allow edits or deleting a published homebrew? Yeah, we're going to do something about that as we take a more comprehensive look at homebrew in the future. Uncle Jack, any way to make my character sheet private from other members in my campaign? Now you can make, you can definitely make it like notes and all of that private by using preferences, setting that to private. We're hopefully going to add some additional controls and settings and preferences in the future that can allow that to happen. We started in a place where that's not the case because typically we've seen that players tend to be pretty open with that, but I certainly can see the use case for you wanting to be lawful evil in disguise, and you don't want people to see it. Now you can click the private button. They're not going to see your alignment, so you can keep some of those things secret. But we'll look into that more over time. Fred McAwesome, will we be getting a content update to the mobile app after the character sheet is added? Doesn't seem to be a lot of movement on content related bugs, i.e., missing condition immunities on most monsters otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, what you're, kind of passively aggressively implying there is the team's not doing much work on bugs or anything else like that. And that is certainly true because the team is focused primarily on getting the character sheet into the app with offline access. So, as that gets in place and as we get completed with that, then yes, the bandwidth for the team would open up, and some of these bugs that need to be addressed, they would hit the top of the backlog. So, end of the day, that's how development works. You have to have priorities. You have to work with the resources that you have, and working within those constraints. At the moment, we believe, and I continue to think this is the right call, that working on the character sheet, getting into the mobile app is more important than some of these bugs that you're referencing. But we will always continue to look for opportunities. If there are transitional times where we can address a bug or two, we try to do that as we're able to. Steve Gives, can you include a change log visible to the DM and player of changes made to a character and when? Definitely can't do that now, but it is something on our list that we would love to be able to do in the future. Suidin, if Brib is featured in Idle Champions, what things might his ultimate be? There is no telling. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Colby.com, is there any update on Homebrew revamp and Homebrew classes? No update other than it is still on the roadmap. You can check out the public roadmap at dndbeyond.com/feature-roadmap. And we do like high level when major things change. We do keep that updated. Captain Tita, do you have plans or a time frame? No time frame for more virtual tabletop features, dice rollers, interactive maps, etc. Everything that you mentioned right there is on that public roadmap. And yes, we definitely have plans for all of those things. No wall the time. Now all the time, probably. Regarding content management, I assume players will be able to access content that they've purchased regardless of what a DM sets as a restriction. But what happens for content they do not own? Is restricted in my campaign? they have permission to it in a separate campaign, it's going to be campaign by campaign. There's no scenario where someone can be playing in one campaign and restrict content, that same someone playing in a separate campaign where that happens to be the adventure they're running. We cannot, in these kind of cases, do anything more than what would actually happen at a table with any kind of physical books or anything. Also, your player, at the end of the day, we can try to remove the ease of this, and that's what we're going to do with content management. But at the end of the day, if your player really wants to read ahead, they can go down to Barnes and Noble and read ahead. They can probably, find less savory ways to read ahead also. So, there's something about a social contract that has to come into this at some point. But as easy as it is to access the content on D&D Beyond, we realize that removing that ease of entry is something that is desirable, and that's what we're trying to do here. Angus.Davidson. To follow up on Meffer's question, maybe have a friends/adventures list that we can right click and invite. I like it. Let's see what happens. Aaron Lore, New Thor. I don't understand the question. There looks like there's going to be, and that's very exciting, Love and Thunder. All right, the full run through. What is your opinion on allowing characters to purchase common magic items in game from NPC shops? I feel like that's a nice, flavorful thing to do if you're asking from a dungeon mastering perspective. I think that is a great way to give a little character to some of those shops. If you're asking from a more platform or tool-based perspective, the ability to create shops and inventories for shops is something that we definitely have talked about and is on our list. Boring Madman, what is the end goal of D&D Beyond in relation to other digital tools? I can really just say that we don't focus on any other digital tools. We focus on what we are doing, and we see ourselves as the digital tools. And so the end goal of that is we are going to be the best resource, and that's not even saying digital necessarily. We're going to be the best resource to enhance gameplay for dungeon masters and players that is available. So everything that we're doing is chasing that goal, and everything that we're doing, it's going to be slower than everyone, including me, would like to see it, but it is the path that we're taking. And the whole idea is that D&D Beyond will have this breadth to it that you're just not able to find elsewhere. Grant and Janice, any update on purchasing D&D Beyond modules / items as gifts to other players? No updates yet, but we're trying so hard to see if we can squeeze this in before the holiday season. We'll see what happens. No promises, but we'll see what happens. Night Fenris 42, maybe one more question. This is it. Are there plans to sync bookmarks across multiple devices for the D&D Beyond app? Yeah, there are plans for this. So actually, we want to, at some point, be able to have bookmarks that you can access within the app, that you could access on other devices, but that you could also access on the web when you're viewing the compendium content. So we've already put architecture in place that will allow that to happen. We just have to go back and make all the things talk to each other. So when the time comes, we are going to do our best to do that across not only all devices, but any platform where you're accessing that content. That's our plan. All right, we are out of time. As always, thank you for the questions. Never ceases to amaze how many come in, and as thoughtful as they are, it really is humbling. We would be nothing without the community, so I genuinely appreciate all of you, not only for joining me here, but the people that can't join, who are making D&D Beyond this resource that the community and the fans, just like myself, just like the team out here, that we all need. We really do appreciate you guys. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Unfortunately, because of Gen Con, I'm not going to be here next week for a dev update, but the con season should be slowing down a bit, and we will be back the week after that. We should be, but yes, we will be back on the 15th of August. And that is actually, I think that's right, 15th of August. And that is actually the 2-year anniversary for D&D Beyond. So that will be a special one. Be sure to tune in on the 15th. And if you're at Gen Con, stop by and say hello. We'll see everybody later. Later, Gators.